1990.
Yeah.
You're back in Toronto from France.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me about that, coming back from France. You've been away for 2 years?
Yeah, it was sort of weird, but I came back.
Where'd you live? I mean, you didn't live with...
Julie
and I are living now independently.
That's right. I rented an apartment on the corner of Amelia and Sackville.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
It was a sort of quite a big
place, yeah.
Triplex or fourplex or whatever it was.
And a fancy kitchen.
Yeah, and yeah, I rented a place there. So I came back, rented a place there, and then it was the sort of Macintosh revolution thing, right?
Right, desktop publishing is happening.
Yeah, and so I guess where did you and I work? I can't remember.
We worked before this.
I know, but like...
I worked with you when you had Myrta.
Yeah, I know, but like when I came back,
Street.
It was you that was... Like, I mean, I had no idea anything about computers.
Yeah.
So I can't remember. But I mean, okay, I bought a Macintosh.
But we had
But
that
where the
other
hell was
computer
it?
before that.
Huh?
We had the SE before that.
Before I went to France?
That was in 1984 or 85.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but like it wasn't...
So we'd done a few little things. When you came back, that's when you went to Blimmerlevon and bought like
the
5,000 on the monitor, 5,000 on the computer,
yeah, that's
5,000 on the laser printer.
Yeah.
I'm in business.
That's right. But where was the business?
Well, you worked out of Alpha.
Yeah, all right. So
you worked out
I must have only been in... I don't know how long I was in that apartment.
Yeah,
but I was still floating around with Joe.
Yeah.
And the boys and all that stuff. And but in the meantime, Joe had moved to Carlton Street, the co-op.
Right.
So
and Julia was living with her.
And Julia had moved in with her when I went to France.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, okay. So I came back. I rented that place on the corner of Amelia and Sackville. Then I must have bought Alpha.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting because I wonder if when you came back, you didn't work for Newton Frank.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
I think you did Newton
Actually,
Frank.
I did first before I got... All right, so I worked for Newton Frank.
Yeah.
And then... which was great, you know, because it gave me somewhere to work.
Yeah.
I had somewhere to work, and it was terrific, really, because, you know, I just sort of plugged into it, and I was the publishing end. Like, Bob Frank was the sort of corporate thing. Mm-hmm. Paul Arthur was the sort of architectural stuff and wayfinding and signage and all that kind of nonsense. And I was the sort of publishing guy. And it worked because like I brought in work, but because I had a sort of full studio there was a guy called Ivan who used to do paste up and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So like,
I remember him too.
Yeah, it was really useful that, you know, so they were very happy because I kind of kept the studio going.
Yeah.
Because I brought in sort of big jobs that went on forever. I mean, they weren't necessarily super high profit, but they kept, at least they paid the wages of the paste up guy, if nothing else, you know. So I must have worked there. Yeah. And I think I worked there, and I was living in the apartment. Yeah. Then I bought, you see, I don't know, all right, I must have bought Alpha at some point. Yeah. But I'm not sure how long I had Alpha before I bought Sackville. All right, I bought Alpha, and I had a studio in Alpha.
Yeah, you did. So
I don't know whether I'd left Newton Frank or whether I just had a studio there.
Yeah,
like,
quite possibly.
Had a studio.
Yeah.
Of course I had a studio.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
Because I was living there on my own, and it was a 3-bedroom house.
Totally.
So it was perfectly, there was space for a studio.
Yeah.
So And then I was in Alpha, what, I don't know, a couple of years? Not very long, actually. And then you were living down
and Daisy was born.
Daisy was born.
Right.
So she was born in what, 93?
92. 93, something like that, yeah.
93, she's 26 now.
Okay.
Tomorrow, or whenever it is. On this, yeah, 93. Daisy was born. So, well, I was definitely in Alpha when Daisy was born.
Yeah.
And you were living on Seaton.
Yep. Yeah.
And there was sort of kind of problem. Well, not problems, but
yeah, it wasn't the best. Wasn't the best.
Wasn't the greatest place to be, and so we decided to move to.
Yeah, so that must have been like mid-90, right? Because
yeah,
Daisy's born. She spends her first year at Mum's
condo, at the condo,
right?
Yeah.
And then the next spring, Julia's looking for a place,
right?
And they find this place on Sackville, you and Julia, and you want to buy it and wanted to rent it out from you, and then we came to our agreement
together.
Yeah. And that's when you decided. That's when they bought. That's when Mum bought Alpha.
And Julia and her and Daisy moved into Alpha.
Right, and then Mum had to sell her condo, which didn't go as smoothly as she'd hoped.
No, and she didn't get as much as she'd hoped either.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Okay, so
that sort of deals with all the sort of real estate shuffling of the 90s.
Yeah, right.
And that's going back and forth too, right? Julia and I living outside of the family, and then coming back and living with the family. At different times.
Yes. That's right. So we decide to buy Sackville.
Right.
We then decide to renovate Sackville.
Yeah.
So then we have the dreaded, the Chevelle David
boys.
And the Chevelle boys.
Yeah.
In there for God knows how long.
3 to 5 years. Yeah. Very long period of time.
Actually, it was quite a while.
Yeah.
And we renovated it. Yeah, that's right. And I had a studio there as well.
Yeah. Well, we shared a studio there.
That's right. Well, the front room was the studio, wasn't it, at one point?
We
moved around.
I think we basically
depending on where the renovations were.
Slept in every room in that house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so YMCA. Why is that in here in 1990?
The YMCA.
I mean, the YMCA has been a part of your life
way before
the YMs, from 1990. I mean, by this time you've already run a marathon.
Yeah, YMCA.
Okay.
Not sure.
When did you start going?
To the YMCA?
Yeah.
79.
Yeah, right. And that was the old Y.
Yeah.
Quote, the old Y.
The old Y where men swam naked in the pool.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you didn't have to wear a swimmer costume.
Oh, wow.
Huh. Yeah.
Things have changed. However, the sauna has not.
No.
So Newton Frank, we talked about that.
Yeah.
So you met Virginia.
So after
1990, wow, in the 90s.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
And that was I met her at the Y.
Oh, okay, right.
Yes, because when I went to France, Joe and I split up.
Right.
Not split up. Well, so that was it. I was going to France, and I, I wanted to go on my own. I didn't want to go with 3 boys.
Mm-hmm.
So the next person I met was Virginia,
right?
Whom I met at the Y,
right?
And so I started going out with her.
Mm-hmm. But yet you still decided to walk the Chilkoot Trail with Joe later, sometime in the 90s.
Yeah, well, I mean, I went out with Virginia, but I never lived with Virginia.
Right. Did you ever live with Joe?
No, but I sort of semi-lived with her. Well, I mean, I used to sleep over there a lot.
Right.
And with Tomasz in between us.
Right.
But Virginia I never lived with.
Right.
And I'd always, I mean, I think Joe, I was, a really important person to me. Yeah. And even though we split up when I went to France, I still loved her. Yeah. And so I don't know, at some point when I was back, she was going with the boys, and she'd moved to Whitehorse by this time.
Right.
And she was going with a friend of hers, and Matthias and Tomasz, I think it was. Yeah. I don't think Stefan went. I don't know where the hell he was, but we, on the Chilkoot Trail, and I thought, wow, that would be kind of cool.
Sure.
A good idea. So we went on the Chilkoot Trail, and it was fantastic, actually.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And that's like a 3-day hike.
No, it's a 13-day hike.
13 days, wow.
Yeah, and you start off, it's boiling hot, and you end up walking in snow. Well, in the middle bit, you walk up right over a range of mountains.
Wow.
And that sort of classical picture of the Klondike Gold Rush with the guys sort of walking up. Yeah. It's just like that. It's amazing. It's really amazing. Wow. And it's one of these places where there's you have to take everything with you.
Oh, okay.
There is nowhere.
Yeah.
And you also have to make sure the bears don't get it.
Right.
Because if you run out of food, you're sort of on your own.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really his wilderness.
Huh?
There's no friendly park kind of guys floating around or anything. You go and that's it.
Yeah. Proper outback camping.
Yeah, it was really cool actually. It was really neat. It was really a lot of fun.
And you went up at summertime, if I can remember.
Yeah, it was
in
July, I think. Yeah. In July. Yeah, it was nice. Yeah, I mean it was nice where it would normally have been, cold and stuff. Yeah. And it was also interesting. I mean, what was amazing was what we found en route, like shoes left behind by and bits of stove and things by Gold Rush guys. Yeah, 100 years old stuff. Wow. Well, nobody goes there.
Yeah.
It's in the middle of it. It's really in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool. Huh. It's really cool.
All right, and then the last thing here it says is you bought 35 Rue La Liberté.
Okay, well then, so once I got back here, and I still, most summers I would go to France.
Right.
Wandering around doing something or other, either hanging out with the Déshabillés or somewhere. And I'd always sort of have look out for houses. And then in 1999, I was with Virginia, actually, over there. Mm-hmm. And, by then I'd figured out, not really the style of house, but I knew where I lived in Bouille-les-Baronnies, it was a place called Vercoing, which is near Bouille-les-Baronnies, when I was living in the Cabanon. Mm-hmm. It was fine in the summer, but Bouille-les-Baronnies had 3 bars in the summer. Mm-hmm. In the winter, I only had 1. Mm. Now, I don't care if there's a bar or not a bar, but it's an indication of what's happening in the town.
Right.
Dead as a dodo in the winter.
Right.
Really dead. So I knew that, and what I had figured out was that it was all to do with boulangers. If there were lots of bakeries in a town,
right,
then it meant the town was active all the year round.
Right.
So what I was looking for was a little town. I didn't want to live in a big city. A little town that didn't have a major tourist destination. I wasn't interested in living somewhere where, you know, I don't know, they've got the Eiffel Tower and there's all these lunatics coming all the time to see it. But, you know, even though where I do live in Clermont, you know, we have a 13th century church and a chateau that's crumbling and all that kind of crap. But so does every other town have that. Anyhow, it turned, when I was doing the sort of checking out the statistics, Clermont had 18 bakeries.
Wow.
So I thought, well, there must be activity throughout the year because, you know, to support 18 bakeries. No, it doesn't have 18 anymore now, but it did then.
Right.
And so that was my sort of yardstick of what what would be a kind of okay town. And so, you know, when I came across Clermont, it was near a big town, Montpellier, but not like, it wasn't a suburb of a big town. I wasn't interested in living in the suburbs. And I wanted to live downtown, like Centreville, and I also wanted to live not in the sort of where the sort of expats lived. I want to live in the French part of town, sort of thing. And I was interested in a house that was very low maintenance. Like, so I didn't want any land.
Right.
I wanted to be able to shut it up and go. Yeah. And that's it. Not have to worry about it, and not have to sort of, oh, you know, so and so better go and do whatever it is, you know, water the garden or do something or other.
Sure.
So that's how I ended up at Clermont. You know, it was the right town. I was there with Virginia. I met the real estate guy. I looked at it and said, okay, I'll buy it.
Wow.
That was it.
Wow.
Yeah, you know, I managed to get a mortgage without a problem and all that crap. And also, my mum had died.
Right.
And so I had something like...
You had some cash for
I had £28,000 or something.
Right.
Which sort of was half the... that. So I could put it down cash.
Yeah.
And then I had a mortgage.
Yeah, for not very much.
No.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and that was it.
Right.
And so I owned it. And as you know, it's sort of, you just shut the front door, turn the hydro off, turn the water off, and you don't turn up for a year.
Yeah.
And nothing happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, after I bought it, I decided that Mum and I went over there, if you remember, and we stayed at the terminus, and we kind of sort of cleaned it up and got it sorted out. Yeah. And I'd also got a guy, the front of the house was falling off and the roof leaked.
Right.
So we had somebody come in and put a new front on
stuff,
and do that, and, you know, touch wood, it's been
great
okay
since.
ever since.
Yeah.
No maintenance.